Let's set the scene. The NBA season has just started. The fans, they're hyped. They're buying their favorite team's jerseys. Hopes are sky high. Their team is finally going to win, and all of a sudden, FBI, open up! Look, this is about the championship winning coach and a current NBA player that are being hauled away in handcuffs. And it's not because of an assault charge or doping. This one is about gambling. And it's about the type of gambling that you can do if you get information from inside the locker room. But you know what? I'll break it down. I'll break down the people that were involved. I'll break down the plots, the poker tables, the payoffs, and why this might be the NBA's insider trader moment. So it's October 23, and the morning headlines, they're dropping in like bombs. I'm talking Chauncey Billups, who was the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. He was a former final MVP. He got arrested. And then there's Rozier, who was a guard for Miami Heat. He got arrested. And that's just the start. I mean, the former NBA player Damon Jones, he got detained, and there are over 30 people across 11 states that are indicted now. FBI Director Kash Patel, he calls it one of the most craziest cases of sports corruption in modern history. It's a tangled mess of rigid poker games, inside bets, and apparently even mafia ties. Right. Welcome to NBA's Dirty Laundry Day. All right. Let's start with Rozier. It's March 23, 2023, and it's the Hornets versus the Pelicans, and Rozier plays just under 10 minutes, and, well, bad luck seemed to happen to him. He had a foot injury. He should have been done for the night. It all seemed like tough luck. Well, seemed because sportsbooks, they started sounding an alarm. There was over $200K wagered on his unders that night. That means that there are bets placed that he would underperform under his expected statistics, right? And then we're talking about points, assists, rebounds, that kind of stuff. Well, what do you know? He hits every under, like every single one. One sportsbook in particular, they flagged over 30 identical bets in under an hour, all winners, of course, and, it's quite suspicious. So turns out Rozier allegedly told a childhood friend before the game, I'm going out early. And, the friend places bets. He shares that tip with others. Rozier sits out. They all win, right? Well, allegedly, Rozier took out a six-figure cut. Damon Jones, also a former player who was LeBron's longtime associate, he also gets named. In early 2023, Jones texts someone, bet the Lakers players out. That player, that was LeBron James. He was sitting out due to rest. The bets hit, the profits roll in. LeBron had no clue what would happen. And the leagues, well, they had to come from within his circle, right? So the NBA looked into Rozier earlier this year, and they couldn't prove any wrongdoing. But the feds, they kept digging. Now Rozier faces possible federal charges for conspiracy and fraud. His NBA future is hanging by a thread. He's already been suspended, and if found guilty, expect a lifetime ban, just like Jante Porter. I'll give you a reason why you should subscribe. I'll do these kinds of videos 3 times a week, and it's not just iGaming news. I'll give out iGaming tips and tricks as well later on. Right now, I'm just going through some few things that has happened recently that shook up not just the normal world, but also the iGaming industry, because these things don't happen a lot. So I do want to cover them. So subscribe, man. I'd appreciate it. I really would appreciate it. Thank you. Now let's get to the juicy part. Let's talk about poker, rigged games, and apparently how the mafia even got involved. So from 2019 onwards, high-stake poker tournaments, they popped up everywhere. I'm talking New York, Vegas, Miami, the Hamptons. The thing is, these weren't real games of chance and skill. It was all a setup. It was just a scam. So they had electronic card scanners, hidden earbuds, quarterbacks at the table, giving real-time info to the players. The winners, they were already pre-selected. And the losers were just some rich suckers learning by star power. Now, guess who that star power was? It was Chauncey Billups, Mr. Big Shot. He didn't run the game, but prosecutors, they say he played in at least one. He got paid just to sit there and smile and make the scam look legit. Because, someone like that, they call him a face card. It's basically an NBA player at a table that makes any setup looks like a real thing, right? But it wasn't. It wasn't a real game. At least $7 million was stolen through these games. And behind them, apparently, were four notorious New York crime families. So, real mob stuff. So the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, he was clearly rattled. He apologized. He called the news deeply disturbing. He suspended Rozier. He suspended Billups. The Blazers, they named their assistant coach, Thiago Splitter, interim head coach. The Heat held Rozier out of their season opener. Now, let's talk about something that happened a day before these arrests, because this is something, well, it's not funny, but comedy is also about timing, I guess, somehow ironic. So, one day before the arrest, the NBA was doing gambling awareness meetings with these teams, right? I mean, sorta. The NBA Player Association, they warned the league, like, protect the game, do so, but don't turn it into a witch hunt. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because the NBA, they made billions from partnerships with FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars. The over-unders on the player stats, they're literally on TV screens during the games. So, it gets a little bit tricky when you're asking who's here to blame. Is it the industry? Well, no, because there's always gonna be betting, so you have to regulate it properly. You have to make sure that betting goes according to a good ethics, and not match fixing, right? So who's here to blame? Is it Rozier? Well, if guilty, yeah. Is it Billups? Well, if guilty, yeah. Now let's be clear on a few rules as an NBA player, right? You can gamble legally at a casino. You can bet on the NFL. You can bet on the MLB. You can even play horse racing if you want to. But you cannot bet on NBA games. You cannot leak information related to the NBA games, and you can definitely not rig stats or tip off bidding syndicates. Right? That's a clear violation, and what you get is a lifetime ban with no appeal. That's what Jonte Porter got, and that's likely what Roche is looking at right now as well. Well, for Billups, it's a different story, because coaches, they fall under different rules. But it's linked to these mob poker games, and even if it's not NBA related, it's a breach of conduct. He may never coach again. And legally, both these men, they're facing federal charges. That means court dates, trials, and if convicted, prison time. So, can the NBA survive this? Yeah, sure, of course. Like, it's just a wake up call, right? And it just shows how much more the communication has to be within, like, sports bookies and regulators and um, sport leagues. It just has to be way more transparent than it currently is, and it just shows that if you're not going to communicate with each other, and trust me, it's hard with regulators. If your industry, it's hard, because you, as an operator, you have the best intention. You want to protect the player. You don't want match fixing, right? You want it to be a fun and fair game, and this is the opposite. This is no party involved wants this. So yeah, it's don't let a few rotten apples ruin this beautiful industry of ours, because wow, that would fucking suck. I love this industry, and it would suck.